coming to you from the future. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Crazy for KV's RC. I'm Tim. Welcome back to my channel. So I recently picked up this Red Cat Ascent. It's kind of Red Cat's, I guess, jump into the performance-oriented competition like, you know, crawlers, 1/10 scale. Upon posting that video, I realized that this truck is somewhat controversial. There's people on pretty polar opposite sides of the spectrum. Some people, you know, really ranting and raving about it. Some folks, they don't get it. They think that the hype is a little unwarranted. And then there's folks, I think like me, kind of sit in the middle. First Red Cat I've ever owned. It's the first one I've ever been interested in. Never been interested in a Gen 7, 8, or 9. But this truck had enough features, it was cool enough, and at a price point that I thought was fair enough. And basically the only reason I bought it is because of you all. So kind of wanted to give another perspective on it. Someone who wasn't sent the truck, went out and purchased it with their own money. I can give my honest opinion. You guys don't have to worry about anything filtered. I think there's a lot of channels that they're not, you know, saying what Red Cat told them to say. I think they just get sent a truck and they give their opinion on it. But in the first video, I kind of break down some of the pros, cons about it, what I think about it, what I think are going to be some of the issues. I did not drive it previous to that video, so I couldn't give really like a driving opinion of it. But I can kind of tell just from the low speed control here on the bench that it did have some issues. I'm going to go ahead and link that video up here. Go check it out if you are kind of unfamiliar with the truck, or you want to see, you know, kind of gradually how I iterate through it, and you know, where we started from, and you can kind of hear in that video the direction I'd like to go with it. So as my intro said, you know, I'm from the future right here. My intro before driving it for the first time, watched it, didn't really love it, so I decided to do it again after. Obviously you can tell by the dirt on the tires, the scuffs on the body. You may be able to see it's still in pretty good shape, but we did go out and we did drive the truck. But we'll talk about that while I'm driving it, kind of give you guys my thoughts on it. But we're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna talk about what I did, what I changed about it, and then we'll go out and we'll hit the rocks with it. So right away you can probably see a little bit of a wiring mess. Not too bad. There's not a lot going on in this truck, so it's really not that bad at all. What did I do? So following that video, I did talk about this large kind of trail size pack battery plate, battery retainment system back here. I went ahead and removed that. There was not a lot of weight there, but it was not needed. I think even on these sliders, you could get a decent enough size pack, carry a spare or two in your pocket, and have plenty of fun. So the truck's got these weird little cross braces that look like they're set up for a fan. I mean, they're definitely fan size. My guess is probably a 30 mil fan, and it had one up front. So these chassis rails are steel. They're very, very stiff. This is one of the stiffest chassis I've ever felt, and that's including C-channel. But I did remove that cross brace, did not think it was needed. These shock towers do bolt on, but they're steel as well. There's a little flex at the top of them, but it's not that bad. Not really that worried about it. So we did some weight savings. That's pretty much most of what I did as far as removing things from the truck. What else did I do? So I leaned the shocks down. I raised them up to the highest hole and put them as far forward as possible. It kind of makes the shocks act as if they were a little bit softer, and also brings down that overall ride height. Unfortunately, you know, the chassis rails, being some of the higher parts of the truck, do raise the center of gravity. Center of gravity in this truck's it's not great. It is pretty high. I don't know, I can't remember if they call it an LCG or not, but I would say it's definitely not LCG. But it is a, you know, flat rail design, divorce transfer case, with a, you know, forward motor mount transmission, pretty high powered servo. But yeah, it's not a peak performer right out of the box. Don't expect that. If I didn't outright say that in the last one, I didn't really feel qualified to, but in this one I do, now that I do have some time on the rocks with the truck. But before I even took it out and ran it, I did make some changes. This stock motor is a 550 42 turn. That's a 3-slot. Wasn't sure if it was the motor or if it was this Hobbywing 1040 ESC. I said a few times that it was a 1060, but it's actually a 1040. The truck just lacked low speed resolution. Just testing it here on the bench, it could have been the radio as well. In the video, I didn't, diagnose it really, but after I shut the camera off, I did go ahead and throw another radio in there, and the radio didn't fix it. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and start throwing some electronics in here. The old Hobbywing 1080, this is a Gen 1. Couple of differences, I don't have a Gen 2, never used one, but these are pretty tried and true, pretty affordable, $40, $45. And we also did another weight savings unintentionally that I think did take some of the weight off the front end of the truck, but it took it off the high side of the truck as well, so not all bad. So like I said, this stock motor here, Red Cat motor, I don't think the motor was really the issue, the culprit. I think it was mostly the ESC, but I went ahead and threw, I tested a couple different motors. I tested a Crawlmaster Sport 550 in 13 turn. I also tested this Crawlmaster Sport 540, and this is a 13 turn as well. And I didn't get the low speed resolution that I wanted out of it. So I actually had this 16 turn Crawlmaster Expert, rebuildable, a little bit nicer motor from Holmes there, and decided I was going to commit to that and throw that in and see how it worked. Really the only other thing I did to the truck is I did throw on some SSD portal covers up front. Now, one thing to note, some of the manufacturers haven't caught up with the naming or marketing of their products. Not a Red Cat expert. If I'm wrong on this, let me know. But as far as I know, the portal covers will fit the Gen 8, Gen 9, and this. I'm pretty sure these are the exact same axles completely as the Gen 9. They look exactly like a Gen 9. And I went ahead and bought Gen 8 style portal covers. Looked at a lot of pictures. The bolt pattern looked the same as what was on here, and rolled the dice, and they fit great. While we're talking about the weight, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw the results of the corner scale right here. You guys can kind of see we gained an ounce. I took some weight out, but I did add a decent bit of weight with the brass up front. Didn't really gain any front white bias. I think because we took some of the weight off the front with the plastic, some off the back, and then we added some weight down there. Now, the truck, I'll be honest with you, you guys will see on the rocks, does not have the best low speed resolution still. Kind of learning, I think, that the transmission, the gearing in this truck is just a little bit fast. I even went as far as to look for underdrive gears for the portals or for the diffs. Didn't seem to find anything. So leave a comment down below if you're familiar with Red Cat, if you've got some Red Cats, if there's any options for anything like that, because I do think that the overall gear ratio could be better. I mentioned I lowered the rear end. The front shocks are actually as high and as far back as they can be as well. Unfortunately, because of the shock tower design, length of the shocks, it kind of ends up with this Carolina squat look, and a decent bit of rubbing on these rear fenders. Maybe a trim is in order. I actually think the body looks pretty good. It's not the most scale, accurately proportioned body, but I really love the color. It's got a nice kind of metallic flake to it. Pops out in the sun. It's a color I don't have. It's a style I don't have. So let's do a running total. We're gonna keep track of the money I have in the truck and all the upgrades, but the goal is to try to see how close we can get to much more expensive custom builds, out of the box builds that perform really, really well, and see how cheap you can do it for with this as a starting platform, or if it's even possible. There is a certain point where you have to spend so much on upgrades, you would have been better starting with a better platform, better chassis, better axles. At a certain point, once you switch out the chassis rails, really what you're still running is the transmission and the axles. And I'll say the transmission and the axles right now don't necessarily seem the best. Like I said, they do seem pretty fast. Okay, so let's get that running total going. So the truck, $290, it's $289.99. We're not gonna include tax, we're not gonna include shipping, and no sales. So for the ESC, Hobbywing 1080 Gen 1. A little bit harder to find prices on. MSRP, or what you see retail on the out of stock, is $45. I've seen them down as low as $40 on certain sites. So we're gonna call it $43. That Crawlmaster Expert, fairly expensive for a brushed motor, kind of a mid-level brushed motor. You could spend a lot of money for brushed. That's a $57 motor. So our motor ESC combo was $100. That SSD brass was $45. So that brings our running total to $435. So we're gonna find out if it's enough. I'll see you guys out on the rocks. So we're gonna go out, we're gonna hit the rocks. You guys will get to see me drive it, kind of hear me talk through my first impressions of it. At the end of the video, I'm gonna throw a little bonus footage. I think one of the great kind of markets for this is, you know, maybe you're a parent and you have a young kid developing those fine motor skills enough to be able to drive a trail truck, go out and play with you, and you're looking for a budget-friendly option to get them something that's hobby grade. You can replace parts. We all break parts. Kids are most likely definitely going to break parts, and maybe this is an option. The used market is sometimes a real pain to deal with, and for $290, this is a really good option. Great starting point. So at the end of the video, check it out. I kind of torture test it for just a little bit amount of time and drive it like I think a kid would on my terrain that I have, just to see if I break anything, anything goes wrong with the truck. So check that out. All right, everyone, we made it out to the lake. Pretty cold out here, actually. I actually went out and I set some gates using my Jekyll and Hyde C2. That truck's still a work in progress. Stay tuned. Trying to get it fine-tuned, dialed in, but it's a pretty high-performing truck already, and not going to take it easy on the Red Cat. So I set some really hard gates with it. They're doable with the C2, but we're going to see how the Red Cat does. So let's get the truck powered on and we'll hit it. All right, y'all, we got the truck powered up. I got an 850 little 3S Gens Ace in there. Pretty nice little tidy battery. Should give us pretty good run time on this though. Brush setups usually are not quite as efficient as brushless, but not too worried about it. So we got 6 gates set. Like I said, they were set by the Jekyll and Hyde C2. So this is the first time I've actually driven the truck besides for on the bench. We did set our endpoints. Pretty easy to do on the factory radio. We're still using that factory radio. We get pretty decent slow speed resolution. So just trying to get over this. Already noticing ground clearance is a little bit of an issue here. All right, we got over it. Sometimes ground clearance though, as long as you know the truck and you can place your tires, it's not too big of an issue. So we're starting off with kind of a jagged, fairly straight up climb. Not too bad. See how it does. These tires, I mean, so far, honestly seem to be doing pretty well out here. All right. This isn't a comparison against my fully built comp truck, but I do want to see if this can run lines that truck kind of breezed through. So we do have the underdrive in this, like I said. We got a little bit of brass up front. This truck feels pretty stable. I'd like a little bit better low speed resolution. I feel like we're gonna roll backward. Yep. Now, if anyone knows anything about the C2 or you watch my videos, it's a very forward bias truck. It's got a lot of weight up front. And it honestly is, it's a great vertical climber. So oh, we got it. Even this 1080 ESC still kind of wants to unload a little bit. It is a 540 motor. Maybe the truck does need a 550, but okay, we're gonna move on and go over to gate 2. Gate 2 is extremely wide, but there's really only one way through it. You have to straddle that little crack there. Ran this line before. It was very wet and very slick, and it was a very difficult line, but we'll see how it does. Kind of have to approach it from pretty far back though to get set up. The truck does kind of look like it's got a Carolina squat on it, because it basically does right now. I've got the front shocks as low as I can, and the front lowered as far as I can, but it's a lot lower in the rear. But just wanted to get that chassis weight down low. You can see here the truck's gonna want to kind of unload in the rear. We gotta typically, you got to come pretty high and then turn into that. I just don't know if the truck's planted enough for that. We're going to try it from this angle because this is the way I normally like to drive it. Brush motor is nice and quiet though. See if we can get that back to settle. No. Okay. Let's try it one more time. It's doable, I think, with the truck, but I just gotta drive a little better. Steering servo seems to have plenty of power. Okay, there we go. We're through. Wasn't pretty, but it's doable. Okay, so gate 3 here. Just kind of a weird, it's a pretty vertical climb. You got to hug this right side. Initial impressions are decent. I think it's out of the box without really any major shock mods or whatever. It's a capable trail truck. Durability is probably my biggest concern, just because I don't have experience with Red Cat. But I will say that wind's probably pretty brutal right here. But one thing I noticed is the truck, even with the brass up front, still lacks that forward weight bias. It's like, I think it's 59-41. I'd like to see it 63-37, somewhere around there. And you can see it just not wanting to hook up top. We'll see if we can cheat. There we go. Use that driver front. Yeah. Could be tires too. Probably not the best tires. They seem to be working okay. That's just, there's no weight on the front tires there. You can see here, this big vertical, this might not be doable for the stock truck. So gate 3 did not happen for us. Just lacked the front weight bias. Actually just saw the steering servo to get bogged down a little bit there. The stock servo's got more to give. I'm only running 7.4 volts. We could, yeah, you can see we're just not biting there, and that's tire foams, weight. This truck's pretty light. It's under 6 pounds. Maybe some brass rings. The truck might have some, maybe down the road, some aluminum bead locks and some brass rings or something. Even some steel wheels would probably kind of plant it a little better, combat that steel chassis. So we're going into gate 4, which is just got to negotiate this big crack. Basically, you need good clearance of the front tires, which this body does have. Not as good as the blue body that they offer, but there we go, we're through. That one was easy. Yeah, like I was saying, the biggest downfall, I also think suspension articulation. You see the tires working pretty good there, but you see the truck kind of, this isn't a terribly steep climb. It's decent. You'll see the truck kind of unload. Kind of lacks that weight to help with the breakover. Little bump. So the truck's in that $450 range right now, just south of $450. But it's a pretty expensive brush motor. It's almost a $60 brush motor. Could probably do better with one that's significantly cheaper, or do just as well, I guess I should say. Save some money though. So we cleared gate 5. It's pretty easy. I didn't think that one would be too bad. We did a rollover right there on that side hill, just kind of showing that high center of gravity. Like I said though, my kind of fully built, custom built C2 walked through this course pretty easily. So I just don't think we're quite there yet, but to be honest, pretty happy with it. There we go. There we go. Not pretty, but okay, we're gonna back up, try to get our driver front to start to bite. We're really working that servo. That passenger front is in a bind. Kind of beating it up. I'd like to try to make it out of this. Oh, did I get it? There it is. Let's see if we have enough forward bite and climbing ability. Radio is not the easiest to drive one-handed. It's not too bad. There we go. Oh, I bumped gate 6. I was looking at the camera and making sure we were getting it, but not the truck's fault. That mentioned it was cold out here. Kind of underestimated the wind on the lake and what that does, with the temperature. It's in the low 50s, but it's pretty chilly, especially for here in Georgia. But that's going to wrap it up for this first drive, which, wasn't even stock. But I kind of want to wrap up my thoughts about the truck, what I think about it. What is the truck's purpose? What is it good for? I think it's a really good, out-of-the-box, high-performing trail truck. I think if you have really technical terrain, your money, your $300 could probably go further in upgrades for a truck you already have, or, save a little bit more, buy like an SCX10 Pro, the Vanquish VRD, or, modify an SCX10-2 or a VS410 Element. Gatekeeper is a really capable truck. The Ecto, never had one, but it's on that same chassis as Gatekeeper and just a lighter body, basically. So I'm sure it does very, very well. For the price point, it's hard to beat. $289 right out of the box for this version. $299 for that little bit more like a comp cut body, the blue body. But for under $300 RTR, you get your radio. It's a great starting point. Hard to go wrong with it as a first truck. If you're planning to go to scale nationals or a big, national level Sorka competition, it may not be your best bet. It's definitely not going to be the most competitive. There's a really good drivers that could probably do well with it in a mostly stock configuration. But most of us mere mortals, you're going to want a little bit more capability. and kind of hide some of the, you know, driving flaws or whatever mistakes you're going to make. You get away with more, basically, the more capable the truck is. But I still don't love the control of the motor. I think it could use a little bit more low speed resolution. There's some really good budget friendly options that'll actually be cheaper than this brushed ESC motor combo. Not too worried about wheel speed, so you guys might already know what I'm thinking about, but you'll have to wait and see. The bird just scared me. Steering servo leaves a little bit to be desired. It's not bad, but when you get it kind of bound up, it doesn't really have the power necessary to work for you and work the truck if you need it to. You're not going to be doing any shimmying. It's just not fast enough. Maybe on 8.4 volts you could, but to be honest, eventually we're definitely going to move away from this factory servo anyway, and we're going to look at some better options. The shocks lack the overall travel needed to get the articulation out of the truck, and it does kind of impede it. It's very stiff through like some twisty stuff, and it kind of wants to unload, and because of the high center of gravity, it wants to roll. That steel chassis, definitely an economical choice by Red Cat, but not the highest performing choice. We all knew that was going to be the case, but the stock tires actually did very well. Probably some of the best performing stock tires I've ever seen, that I've ever dealt with. The Traxxas ones are really good too, and the Canyon Trails. I think I like these a little bit better though. But that's going to do it for this iteration of the Red Cat and its upgrades. Stay tuned though. I got some parts ordered already. We got some more stuff coming. We're gonna have to bump it up a little bit if it wants to compete with kind of the heavy hitters in that flat rail game. I've got quite a few that I can compare it to, so I still think it's got quite a ways to go. I'm gonna try to slowly creep up that price point of the truck plus the upgrades and try to get it as cheap as possible, where I think that it can actually do well for some local competitions or just to get your feet wet in some very technical crawling, running gates with friends, things like that. But stay tuned, guys. I'll see you next time. Before you go, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this truck. Is it being overhyped? Am I too critical? Am I too generous to the truck? Let me know. Love to hear what you guys think. See you next time. I'm just going to send it. All right, y'all, a little bit of bonus footage here. I was going to recommend that the Red Cat Ascent is a pretty good truck for, you know, someone to get their kids as their first crawler. Not sure exactly what age, probably depends on their, you know, fine motor skills, but I've seen the way most kids drive RCs. Honestly, it's the way that most adults want to drive RCs, but we don't like paying for broken parts or fixing them. So I'm going to bomb this thing kind of across the beach here. It's rocky, probably going to hit some stuff on the axles. Never had a Red Cat. I know they had some durability issues, so we're going to find out. I really hope I don't break anything, but I want to find out if it's a reliable truck, something that I can recommend you get for kids, because if it's going to be something you're going to be working on all the time, your money's probably spent in better places. So let's hit it. We're going to drive it like we stole it. That's full throttle on this 16-turn motor. About walking speed, fast walking speed. It's fast enough. Oh, rolled it over.
All right, for real, that's going to do it. Drove it around like that for, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. Battery finally died on me, but I was basically full throttle the entire time, bouncing off stuff, hitting the diffs. We'll see. I'll check it out. You guys will see in the next video if it looks like I broke anything. Truck seems to be running fine. No clicking, nothing like that yet. Got it bound up in a couple spots. Pretty hard hits on the front differential. So, you know, time will tell, but, you know, initial impressions, I think we can also add that to what this truck's use case is. If you have kids, you're not looking to spend big bucks. Maybe you don't want to deal with the used market. Sometimes it can be a real pain. And yeah, this truck at $289 is a great option. The stock motor ESC going to be just fine for that type of driving, most likely. Maybe you wait for some of those stock electronics to go before you start making those initial upgrades. But thanks for watching, y'all. I'll see you next time.